Before we get started, guys, I want to tell you to join my Discord server to stay updated on everything. It's the home of our community. Just search this link for the invite. Today I wanted to do a different style of video, while still providing some tips on how to speedrun Battle for Bikini Bottom. Here are my top 5 beginner level mistakes, ranked by how severe and common they are. These will help you a lot when you start running. Hopefully you'll learn a thing or two from this list. So let's get started. First one we'll cover coming in at number 5 is bowling or double jumping into Golden Spatulas. These two mistakes come from the same fundamental misunderstanding of how spatula collection is initiated, so I wanted to combine them. Quite often you'll see new players bowl into Golden Spatulas thinking it saves time due to the acceleration into standing still, much like bowling into a loading zone to save time. However, this isn't the case. Bowling into loading zone saves time because you have no action to perform after the loading zone has been triggered, so if you're locked into bowling lag, you don't lose time. Now, bowling into a Golden Spatula, on the other hand, does not only preserve your lag that you experience, but also causes the spatula animation to initiate after the bowl. So all you're doing is moving slightly faster into the Golden Spatula to tack on a ton of lag after. There are very few situations when bowling into a spatula is acceptable as a safety strat, but doing it on every spatula is definitely a beginner level mistake. Same goes for landing on them out of double jumps as well. If you recall my industrial park skip tutorial, SpongeBob's transformation into a SpongeBall can be delayed by the crouching animation that results from a double jump. The same is true for spatula grabs. Landing on a spatula from a double jump delays the spatula animation until your crouch finishes, so it loses a lot of time if you do it frequently. So how do you fix these issues? All you gotta do is land next to the spatula and walk into it. That's it. Walking into a spatula has no extra lag, and if you find yourself needing to remove your cruise boost before collecting a spatula, just bowl next to it and walk into it. Unless you'd be in danger of falling otherwise, of course. Very easy fix that'll save you tons of time now that you're aware of it. Coming in at number 4 is referencing the world record to learn the game for the first time. I did cover this in my previous tutorial on Jellyfish Fields, but the main idea here is not overwhelming yourself with extremely risky and difficult strats that players practice for hundreds of hours before attempting in runs. Not to mention the thousands of hours of doing runs that lead up to implementing a lot of these strats. A lot of them hardly even save any time, and there are plenty of alternatives that are way more consistent and almost as fast. That's not to say they aren't worth doing for anyone. For an extremely optimized player, 15 seconds for a 1-frame strat can be very beneficial. However, for a new player, those 15 seconds won't help your time much, especially if the alternative is extremely consistent. Learn at your own pace and pick up strats you're comfortable with to implement into your route. I recommend starting with the tricks I've been covering recently, along with the full segment guides I'll be posting more of soon. Those will all be in the tutorial playlist I'll link in the description. Just know that you're definitely not alone in this community. Hundreds of people have attempted speedruns of this game and use all kinds of different strats, and I'm sure all the experienced ones would advise learning the game with what's consistent, not what's optimal. Now we have number 3, not practicing Robot SpongeBob skip before doing your first run. This is one of those skips that people watch a speedrunner do and assume, oh, that's easy, I know how to do it. But many don't realize this trick is extremely feel-based and the timing looks way easier than it actually is. You don't need to master it, but I do recommend spending some time with it before starting that timer. This is a trick that I'll be covering later this week with an individualized tutorial, so keep watch for that one. But this tip can also apply to any other skip you brushed over and assume you know how to do. You should definitely become familiar with all the major skips you plan on doing before you begin your run. It doesn't take much time and there are plenty of resources that'll help you figure them out. Now here at number 2 we have the opposite problem. Spending too much time practicing cruise boosting before your first run. It can be pretty discouraging practicing cruise boosts and getting them once out of every 10 tries after hours of focusing on it, but this isn't even that bad. Because each CB miss costs 1 to 2 seconds on average, missing one 10 times won't do that much damage to your first run overall. Most people's first runs are around 2, 3, sometimes even 4 hours anyway. Even a minute lost to each cruise boost won't do that much damage in the grand scheme, and it's going to help you get a baseline for where you need to improve by finishing your first run. The sooner you get your first run done, the sooner you can start analyzing for areas of improvement and enjoying the process of bringing your time down. As a beginner, it's not important to perfect all tricks before doing your first run. Rather, it's good to get them in a state where you can get them within a reasonable number of tries. If you struggle to get each cruise boost, don't worry. Everyone does it first, and I guarantee that getting cruise boost experience in runs is far more effective and fun than slaving away at a wall for several hours. And now for number 1, which in my opinion is the most common and severe mistake. Resetting or not submitting your first run. This one might be surprising, but consider this. Both of these demonstrate the fundamental misunderstanding that the time you get on your first run is important, or that it demonstrates how good of a player you are. Neither of these are true. First runs are never good. Regardless of how far ahead or behind you are compared to other people's first runs, the first time you get doesn't matter. First runs set up a baseline for you to compare to and start improving on. You'll beat it so easily it's not worth stressing over how good it is, cause it's pretty likely it won't even be your personal best after the next attempt you do. So resetting your first run because you think it isn't good is a very bad idea. It just prolongs the process for achieving that baseline, and it's way more stressful and unfun. You want to focus on having fun and enjoying the game when you first get into it. You don't want to stress and burn yourself out immediately. When you're new, you should finish as many runs as possible before resetting. It's great for building muscle memory and will lead to faster improvement, but you gotta start by finishing that first run. As for not submitting your first run to the leaderboards, there are a couple of main reasons why I consider this a mistake. First is that you obviously shouldn't worry about the time you get. Nobody's gonna judge you for whatever time you have, because we've all been there and we understand what it takes to start running the game. In fact, it's fun for everyone, including yourself, to see how far you've come since that first run. It's refreshing for all of us to see how new players approach the game and improve. Nobody's judging. Not submitting your first run just adds another layer of pressure to get a better time before putting it on the boards. The sooner you overcome this fear, the better off you'll be. And submitting your first run will also help you compare to other players to see where you can improve. This means you can view their runs and compare their strats to yours. See where you can add some things that they do. Gotta remember that even after your first run, you're still undergoing a learning process. Having one completed run just makes it a lot more fun and effective, because now you have vision of clear areas where you can improve and new things you could take on. And now for an honorable mention. A mistake that not a lot of people make, but it's severe if you do. Not interacting with the community surrounding this game. If you go on the speedrun leaderboards for BFBB, there's an option on the sidebar to join the community Discord server. I'll link the leaderboards in the description. This is the main hub for the game. Here we help new players, organize races and bingos, share personal bests. It's a lot of fun. And it's also a great place to start learning more about the game. Plenty of people here are happy to give advice and help you improve. We want to see the success of this game just as much as you do. That's all for my top 5 beginner mistakes in BFBB. If you have any questions, let me hear them in the comments section. I'll be glad to answer. Keep watch for new guides and tutorials, and hit that subscribe button if you want to have them appear in your feed. Thanks for the support, and I'll see you next time.